Our next session is a Newsmaker interview with the world's youngest Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Her name has become synonymous with the fight for girls' education, a cause that she has passionately and tirelessly fought for in her native Pakistan, and one that girls in neighboring Afghanistan are fighting for today. So what motivates her to carry on the fight, to continue to advocate so passionately for girls' education, in fact, to build a movement beyond Afghanistan and Pakistan through her fund, a movement that has reached many other countries in the world. Please welcome Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai. So good to see you, Malala. Just sit in the middle. And it really is my distinct privilege here to sit down with you, Malala, and to conduct this interview. As I just said, you have become one of the world's foremost advocates for girls' education. When you look at the state of girls' education today, the fact that 130 million girls today are out of school, when you look at the situation involving so many countries, so many challenges, what goes through your mind?
I myself have been banned from education at age 11, so I know that there are so many girls out there who want us to do something for them, just as I wanted it at that time. And since then, I have started this organization, Malala Fund, and I advocate for the safe, quality, and free education of all girls all around the world. And as you mentioned, 130 million girls are out of school in this time, in the 21st century. And those girls, they have dreams, they have ambitions, they have potential to bring change in their communities, to be independent in their lives. But education is something that can give them hope for their future. And if they do not have access to education, all of their dreams are taken away. So we work in more than 8 countries, and we work in Brazil, Nigeria, Afghanistan, India, Pakistan. And our model is this network of activists. So it's a locally led activist organization. We support activists who are working on research, who are doing advocacy at the local level, who are training teachers, especially female teachers in Afghanistan, and they're pushing for changes in policies so that policies are more inclusive, and they look at the factor of gender and how that discriminates girls. And so that is the vision, and we are also working together with girls. And this is, our goal is to be a feminist organization to ensure that it is girls-led. I believe in the power of girls. I know that they can be decision makers, and I think we should start believing and engaging young people from a very early age, because I think they have amazing ideas and they have the expertise from their perspective, and they can give amazing input into the decisions that we make.
But how do you build this movement, this extraordinary network for girls' education? As you say, it has this multiplying effect in the impact that it has on not just giving hope to girls within any society, but empowering them, giving them the tools to help to the benefit of the entire society, economically, financially, and so on. But when you look at the kinds of challenges that you currently face, what is the biggest? Is it finance for education, given the fact that the world is facing so many different challenges at the same time? Is it a shortage of finance, or are there the bigger obstacles, the social, the religious? What is the main one for you?
There are many factors that impact girls' education, and I think the 3 biggest are lack of financing for education. There is a huge gap, and I think it's reaching up to $200 billion right now. So when the financing gap continues to widen, it has a huge impact on the lack of infrastructure, on the lack of quality teachers, on the lack of facilities for schools, and that is one factor why girls cannot enroll into schools. Then there are also social norms as well, depending on the region, depending on the area. There could be social norms that prevent those girls from getting access to education. It could be because their gender is seen as lesser, and their education is not prioritized, or they're facing discrimination in the form of, or they're facing other cultural issues, from forced child marriages to child labor, and those are also factors that prevent many girls from having access to education. And then there's also the quality of education. We know that there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of the curriculum and content that we offer to students. And we right now know that our curriculum and content needs to be more gender inclusive, it needs to be climate inclusive as well, and ensure that the education that we provide to children can actually prepare them for the future. Right now, we know, like there was one studies that we did showed us that up to 1 billion children would not actually be prepared for the future jobs. So the education that they're actually receiving is not preparing them for the future jobs that they will have. So it's really important that we look at digital education, for instance. Like, that is the future of the world, and if we are not investing in that, a lot of these students will not be prepared for that future.
And one group of students that is today facing a more uncertain, turbulent time is the group of students who are in Afghanistan, Afghan girls, and certainly Afghan girls beyond the age of 11 or 12, those who are going into 6th grade and beyond. We just heard a few days ago the Taliban, who have been in control of the country, obviously, since the United States pull out in late August, and who have given mixed signals when it comes to allowing girls to continue their education. They've taken the decision now to reverse an earlier statement that they would allow girls' education to go through by banning girls' education from 6th grade onwards. What does it reflect for you, and how much hopelessness do Afghan girls today feel, those who write to you, and I know a lot of girls reach out to you on a daily basis? What is the sense that they have, and what is your sense for their future?
I was hoping that on the 23rd of March, girls would pack their bags, wear their school uniform, and sit in a classroom finally, that they would be able to read, write, learn. But unfortunately, that did not happen. The Taliban reversed their decision. Girls, you can see the videos on Twitter, on social media. Girls are standing outside their school gates, and they are begging, why can't they go to school? It's a very simple question, and the girls that I have engaged with, that I have been talking to, all of them have one question: why is it that girls can't be in schools? And I don't think that the Taliban so far have been able to provide a justification for it. They often say that there are some technical issues. They could not solve those technical issues in the past 7 to 8 months. So we don't know how long it will take for them to solve any technical issues that will finally help these girls to enroll into schools. These girls have dreams, they have ambitions, they are the future of Afghanistan. Women make up half of the population of a country. So imagine when half of the population is held behind and they're not allowed to complete their education. The country is losing, that society, that community is losing, the world is losing. One study that we did at Malala Fund shows us that if we invest in the education of every girl and give them complete education, it adds up to $30 trillion to the world economy. But when we don't invest, we lose that potential.
But do you believe that this latest decision shows the inner fights that could be taking on, could be happening within the Afghan leadership, within the Taliban leadership? Do you feel that it is a transitional phase, that sooner or later they will have to relent and guarantee education for girls in Afghanistan? What will it take?
I think so far, like, the Taliban have issued statements for the education of boys. They have issued statement back in, I think, September, that yes, boys are allowed to go to school, and they mentioned primary education for girls. But there is just something that really prevents them from allowing girls into secondary schools. And we know that primary education is essential, but it's not sufficient for girls to go forward in their lives, for them to decide careers for themselves or choose a path for themselves. So I think, so far they have had a lot of time, and I hope that they announce when they will enroll girls back into schools. And I don't think we can trust their commitments anymore until we see girls actually sitting in classrooms in schools.
But as a Muslim, what do you think motivates these decisions? Because obviously there's always this perception, obviously in the West, that one form of Islam dictates this sort of behavior. What do you say to that?
If you ask any religious scholar to show you a verse from the Quran that says girls cannot go to schools, girls cannot get education, they will say there is none. There is nothing in Islam that will tell you that girls should not be in schools. In fact, Islam preaches that education is an essential part of your life, that it is necessary for you, that you seek knowledge, that you inform yourselves, that you make a place for yourself in the world, and that you contribute to the world. This is the message of Islam. In Islam, it is compulsory for you to get your education. It does not say it's only allowed for men. It says it's for all Muslims. And the first word of Quran was Iqra, which means read. And then it goes on and says, Allama bil qalam, who, it describes God and says he taught by pen. So there's you can, if you want to find support for girls' education, yes, there is in Islam. But I think what's more important right now is the role of Muslim countries. I think in this time when the Taliban are misusing the name of Islam and they are defending prohibition of girls' education, it's critical for Muslim countries to stand up and condemn what the Taliban are doing and ask them to enroll and allow girls into schools as soon as possible. Because we have dozens of Muslim countries. In all of those countries, they are not banning girls from their education. In fact, look at this room here. In Qatar is a Muslim country. We have amazing young women in different roles, in different positions. They are holding the roles of the heads of ministries. So there are Muslim countries where women are engaged, but the world that the Taliban are imagining right now in the society that they want to create, women do not even exist in that. Women are not present in that. And let's just imagine this room. Let's imagine this room without women for a second. Look around and imagine for a second women are not here. I am not here. You are not here. And all these other women you see, they're not here. They're sitting in their homes and they're told, you cannot learn, you cannot get your education, you cannot do jobs. Imagine how much the society is losing. Imagine what is going on in the lives of these women. Imagine what goes on in the lives of those girls. A lot of these girls are actually right now in Afghanistan asking their parents, they're asking their dads, why can't they be in school? So I think it's time that Muslim countries and all countries wake up and they take a stand for girls' education. And I know that some people will say, these are peace talks and it takes time and people are engaged and it has been going on for months. I believe peaceful dialogues are important. They're critical for sustainable peace. They're critical for the future of Afghanistan. However, we also know that the longer it takes, the more difficult it is for girls to return to school. There are girls who are in 11th and 12th grade. If they miss one more year of education, it would be extremely difficult for them to enroll back into schools.
But let me ask you this.
Yes.
I mean, do you really believe that outside pressures, external pressures, strong pronouncements from fellow Muslim countries, or perhaps even harsher measures, any form of leverage in the form of sanctions might work to change the Taliban's course of action, or will change need to come from within and not just from women? And you could argue that women themselves in some of these traditional societies could be a hindrance to progress, that it takes the younger generation to stand up with the help of the men in the family, just like your father played such an important role in pushing you towards continuing your education, whatever the cost might have been?
I think there are three things that need to happen, and I think the global north and Muslim countries can play a role in that. Firstly, taking a strong stance for girls' education and for women's rights. Like, it needs to be crystal clear. There is no if and but in that. It is a non-negotiable condition for any dialogue, for any recognition of the Taliban. There should be zero compromises on that. Then the second factor is actually supporting the local communities in all these engagements that are happening, in all these peace and talks that are happening. It's really important to include the voices of the Afghan people. Women needs to be included. The Afghan civil society needs to be included, because it is their country. They are living in that country, and they have to face the consequences of whatever decision is made. So it's really important that it is inclusive dialogue. That it's not somebody, in Washington and London deciding what should happen to the people in Afghanistan, but it is people from Afghanistan making those decisions. And I think the Taliban finally have to realize that, it cannot be their own very narrow-minded narrative of ruling the country that's going to work. They really need to ensure that they bring in all communities from all ethnic backgrounds. They need to bring in all genders together to make an inclusive government, which is something we have learned for all countries, that this should be the case in all countries, including Afghanistan. And then finally, is the humanitarian aid. We know that there are more than 20 million people at the risk of starvation, and there's lack of financing for many of these areas that need to sustain the country. And if you look at education, yes, it's important to announce that girls can return to school, but once girls started going back to school, how will they afford the teachers' salaries and the equipment and all those things? So it's really important that countries unite and they actually work on rebuilding the economy of Afghanistan. That's the way towards the future.
But looking at how that works and how inclusive this process needs to be, not just in Afghanistan, but in your own native Pakistan and in so many other countries where there are very powerful political forces, I don't want to say ultra-conservative because it would almost lend them some sort of legitimacy, but forces that are fundamentally against any progress, any advancement made by girls and women for whatever reasons it might be. How do you fight that? And to what extent do men have to be involved in this fight to change these mindsets?
I think men's role is critical. Fathers, brothers, they need to stand up for women's rights. And I always mention the story of my dad, because when people ask me about my activism, I always tell them that this could have been the story of any girl in Swat Valley. But what's different in my story is that my father did not stop me. There are so many girls out there who can become change makers, activists, leaders, if men in society and if patriarchy, if the system does not stop them. So I think there are flaws in our system, there are norms in our society that actually become hurdles in front of girls' future. So it's critical that men start supporting women, they stand up with them, and sometimes all they need to do is just give room to women, give space to women. They don't need to do anything extra.
And you talked earlier about the importance of making any political process inclusive as well by giving women a seat at the table. If the Taliban were to accept to meet with you for the sake of discussing the impasse on girls' education, would you accept to sit with them? I know you're not an official.
I think the Taliban they already know what women are asking. They already know what I'm asking. We are asking them to allow girls into schools. I don't think they need to hear that one more time from me in person. And I don't think these things should be conditional. I know that, they want legitimacy. And yes, there are advantages that the other party would seek, but these are human rights. We should not be playing politics on human rights. This is the basic right of a girl to be in school. So let these girls be in school. Let Afghan girls be in schools. And I'm not, I'm not here to like represent Afghanistan. There are women in Afghanistan who are speaking out every day. They're protesting on the streets. Girls are protesting. On the day when they realized that they could not go to school, they were marching on the streets for their right to be in schools. They were crying. They were shedding tears. So if the Taliban have a bit of sympathy, and if they know the teachings of Islam, and if they know that for the prosperity of Afghanistan, education is important, then they will allow girls into schools.
And finally, Malala, on a more personal level, you've achieved so much already. You've fought so hard to continue your own education, and in fact, to achieve the same for so many girls around the world. You're only 24, already a Nobel Peace Prize winner. You still hold the record for being the youngest, though you were telling me earlier you wish that...
I want someone to break that record. I believe in young activists, and I want another young activist to break it as soon as she can or he can.
And hopefully they will. And there's so many young activists really being galvanized on so many different issues today, climate change and so much else. But beyond the Nobel Peace Prize, what more do you want to achieve? You completed your education, recently got married as well. Do you have any ambitions to be politically active, if not now, in the future?
No, I think, I want to remain active in the social work that I'm doing, and I want to continue my activism for girls' education. And one of the key messages of my advocacy is the role of all community members. There is a big role for governments to play, there's a big role for businesses to play, there's a big role for us as individuals to play. It's really important that we advocate for gender equality, that we advocate for inclusivity, and that we stand up for the protection of the rights of women and girls, and we create an equal society. It would not just happen through making some changes in the policies. We all have a role to play as individuals, as mothers, as fathers, as sisters, as friends, as colleagues, as leaders. These are the responsibilities that we need to understand who we are in society, what role are we playing in different spheres, in different places, and we need to understand that each and every act that we take makes up the society that we live in. So it's really important that we understand every role that we have, and whenever we can, we need to push for equality for women and girls, and I hope that we can all understand. Just like final message, Afghanistan right now is the only country where girls do not have access to secondary education. This needs to change. We must live in a world where all girls all around the world can have access to complete education, and they must not be stopped from going to schools. Girls love their education. They love to study and read. Let's give them that dream. Let's not stop it. Yeah.
On this empowering, uplifting note, hopefully that will happen. Let us keep hoping and fighting
Inshallah.
for this new reality. Malala Yousafzai, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to sit with you and to hear your thoughts on girls' education throughout the world. Thank you very much, Malala. And we will take a break.